First, for us, the main point to plan our lesson was to contextualize our school. In this case, we take the example of the school where I work. Those are my actual students back home. Can you go forward, right? So it's in the Puebla state, back in Mexico. We have to contextualize all this. My school, or the school that we will talk about, it's a school located about 20 kilometers away from the main city, which is Puebla City. The place is called Santa Clara Coyucan, right? This is a very rural and poor area. The educational offer that it's in the municipality is only of three kindergarten schools, three elementary schools, one secondary school, and only one high school, which is where I worked, and is the context we're talking about for this presentation. The school body, the payroll of the school, it's built by 9 teachers, one administrator, and three kind of office assistants. And the school community, student body, is formed by 180 students, two classes of each grade, and they are an average of 35 students per group. And lastly, um, we're going to just be concerned and talk about this strategy for the freshman class, which I will show in the next chart. And the next chart, how is it um, built? So the freshman class has a range from 30 to 14 years old. The learning style of the students are 26 visual, 19 oral, 16 kinesthetic, and one audiovisual. And the gender are 24 female and 38 male. That's the context of the school that we're going to present.
Okay. Now we just pay attention to a very important topic that we checked in third semester, and it's about modal verbs. We just pay attention in three, that it's the difference between must, should, and can. In this case, we just talked about different objectives. The first one is the linguistic, and it's to introduce the students in the use of these different modal verbs. In the social-cultural, we realized and get involved into the care of old people because we are going to explain how are we introducing their real context. I mean, why are we talking about old people in this moment, and how can we link these modal verbs? So, furthermore, we're going to check. And the pragmatic one is to produce sentences in a written and orally way using the three modal verbs. In this case, we are going to develop socializing skills as well, and it's going to be important to work first term individually, then pairs, after that small groups, and finally individually again. So we are going ITIPSY as well to develop these different skills. The biography-driven instructional strategy that we are going to implement in this is the trifold that we are going to present it. And the materials for the lesson, it's, as Beto said, we need to pay attention in the context that we are just working, so we cannot ask for more material, so it's about just color sheets and markers.
Okay, so this activity is divided, this strategy is divided in three phases: activation, connection, and affirmation. In the activation phase, the teacher will ask the student about their interactions with other people. If they live with other people, if they have contact with them in household. Okay, and the student brings their background by expressing the family relationship that they have. In Mexico, we know that most of the elderly live with some family with their sons. So I think there are just a few who live alone. Okay, so then the teacher sets three topics that they will approach: nutrition, health, and leisure activities. So the teacher is gonna say, okay, what do you think about the other people in these topics? Okay? What about their nutrition? What about their health? And what about leisure activities? And the student write in the trifold, in the first section of the trifold, we're gonna look at it just in a moment, as many activities as he can related to these topics, okay? And it is gonna work first individually and then it's gonna work in pairs. In using, first they work individually, then in pairs, and then in a brainstorming, okay? So in the connection, the teacher explains them the structure of the modal verbs and in the affirmative, negative, and interrogative way, and their uses. The student is just taking notes about these uses and structure, the grammar structure, and then the teacher asks them to the students to write sentences according to the first information, the activities they wrote in the first section of the trifold about the three topics, which are nutrition, health, and leisure activities. Okay, so the students write these sentences in the second part of the trifold, and then the teacher asks the students to work in small teams to share their sentences, so they can correct them if it is possible, and also the teacher must be a guide and a facilitator, so he's gonna like walk around every team and see how are they doing. Yeah. And then in the affirmation, every team will present the whole class their sentences they just wrote, and the goal in this phase is the student will scaffold their social and cognitive skills. And when we say social, it's because the student at the same time that he's working with the modal verbs, he's trying to, he is developing this social consciousness about the care for the elderly, okay? And in the house and using a second language, okay?
Okay, why are we just linking this, thinking about care about old people and related it with the class? It's because in their school they have a project in Puebla that they just go and take care for older people. So maybe it's just like introduced to go and help that kind of. Okay, so in this case we have the trifold, and well, I think everybody knows. In the first part, it's what I think about. And as he just said, in the first one is about nutrition, then health, then leisure activities. So in this first moment, we are just expecting to have different ideas, just for example, about nutrition, like eat vegetables, drink plenty of water, or something like that. It's just like ideas. In the second one, the things I learned, because we just explain how are you going to use must, should, and can, students can put those modal verbs into little sentences, and finally in the summary sentence concepts, they can explain how these modal verbs are, they can use them. So this is the example that we are just expecting from the students. Nutrition, eat vegetables, drink plenty of water, not sugar, for example. In health, sleep 6 hours, walk at the park, share with their own stories. And then in things I learned, I think this is the most important because this is affirmation, this is a connection. Elder people must eat vegetables. Elder people should eat food without sugar. So in this case, they are just connecting their context with the objectives, the topics that we are just using, that is of course modal verbs. And in the summary of concepts, that it's like the affirmation phase, we are just talk about, we use the modal verb must to indicate obligations, we use the modal verb should to give some advices, and then these are just because of their work is not, well, by monitoring them, but they supposed to be doing it by themselves. Then how are we linking these activities with the accommodation readiness spiral? I'm just going to explain the first one, that is the critical reflection. Because we are just paying attention in Beta's context, they found in some issues while just reproducing this kind of topics. So we paid attention to the reflection wheel journal. Then, by just taking into account all the activities or situations that are presented into our classrooms, we can just check what can we change and then how to improve this kind of thing. So if you remember, the first thing that you need to use is events or behavior, what happened during the lesson, then the feelings that we as teachers had, the thoughts, the learnings, and then the application. By doing this critical reflection and taking into account students' background, we can change everything. Then it's the new strategy to implement and to produce, well, to check model verbs.
For the second part of the spiral, that it's TLD students and families, how can we accommodate and be ready to actually make some adjustments to our daily praxis at the classroom, right? So by using this technique that is the trifold, we'll first try to link our students' background related to their families. For example, wrote a sentence there that says, by using students' background, we can note some issues going on with our students. For example, if we notice that some students are kind of not willing to share anything about maybe their grandparents of an elder person they know, we can actually action something there, help them out, invite the parents and see what's the issue with them. So we have to integrate family students to the activities we relate. That's why we did this about the elder people, because then we actually are helping them with their grandparents or someone older they know, right? So that we can accommodate accordingly. Through the foldable activity, while learning about modal verbs, we can also get to know our students' families. Maybe they're being raised by their grandparents and the parents are away. So this is some information we can get through these activities. Next, the environmental part. Okay. Again, talking about the context, this is very linked to the context, the environmental readiness, right? So this place is a rural community with a moderate elder people population. So that's why it's a good strategy, because we can actually make a difference in the community. Because there are so many elder people that we actually can reach them all. It's not like something very bizarre that we're just projecting in our minds, but it's something approachable, right? Fair infrastructure in the community, access to transportation, etc. The community is well communicate with transport and internet. So we have the tools to actually put this into work. This trifold and this elder people connection, we can put it into action. Through the usage of the activity, the trifold, we will have an impact to the community as well as learning the modal verbs.
Okay, so about the fourth level of the ARS, which is related to curricular, modal verbs is a topic that is included in the curriculum. So it is just skills to develop social values. Also, it was designed under the socio-cultural perspective because the students can interact among them during the activity. And the family is in the forehead of the activity and also on the curriculum. The fifth level is programming and instructional. This talks about differentiated instruction because I think we are considering their students' interest because everybody's family is your own interest, right? So. And also, by designing the linguistic, social-linguistic, and pragmatic objectives, we will be able to develop their skills in a second language. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for your attention.
Sí.